Well, hey guys, and welcome to this edition of Ministry Hangouts with Pastor Greg Surratt. And boy, we've got a great topic and a great lineup this month as we are looking at student ministry and kind of the future of student ministry and next generation ministry, as well as what are current trends that are going on. And we have got a great panel to take a look at that. My name is Sean Wood, and just here to kind of tag along with Pastor Greg and help with this. But this is not called Ministry Hangouts with Sean Wood. It's called Ministry Hangouts with Pastor Greg Surratt. So, Pastor Greg, it's good to have you on again, and just tell us a little bit about what Ministry Hangouts is.
Hey, everybody. Glad you're here. I'm coming to you today from Charleston, South Carolina. Recently voted the #1 destination not only in America but in the world. I know you wish you could be here, but you can't be here, but you can vicariously through the Google Hangouts. So we're glad you're here. Google Hangouts is just the time we hang out, talk ministry stuff, just whatever pops up. And this week we're talking about next generation ministry, student ministry. Should be good. I'm excited about it. We got a great panel. Sean, why don't you kind of introduce our guests, and then we'll jump in and kick it around a little bit.
Absolutely. We have a great lineup today. First, we have Jeanne Mayo, who has been an influence in anyone who's ever done student ministry, and I did for about 11 years. We have learned so much from you, and it's just my honor to kind of meet you for the first time today, but also to have you on the call. So currently serving as a Director of Youth and Young Adult Outreach at Victory World Church in Norcross, as well as the President and Founder of Youth Leaders Coach. Thank you so much for being here, and maybe just tell everybody just a little bit about yourself.
Oh, gosh, you're too nice. I've just done full-time youth ministry for, I never know if I should tell the real number, for 45 exciting years. And wow. I still love it. I'm preaching to my youth group tonight. I still love it because I find adults depressing. And teenagers and college kids are so nice because at least they cuss me out to my face. So that's my introduction.
Jeannie, I love you. I tell you what, just a note on that. My first church was in Northern Illinois, Freeport, Illinois, and she and her husband were in Rockford, and they just had a group that literally rocked the nation from Rockford, and nice. It really is a privilege to have you on today. I can't hardly wait to hear some of the things you say, not just for your wisdom, but they should be, they'll be good.
Does that mean funny or controversial, Greg?
Oh, I hope both. I hope both. Sean,
all right.
And we've also got Pastor Jon Hohm from Seacoast Church.
Yay.
And he's going to be doing a great job. John, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, long-time watcher, first-time caller. So I've been in youth ministry 17 years and just enjoy it, love it. Had a little stint of planting a church, but just felt drawn back into the youth culture, youth world, and so just excited to be back in the trenches. And I'm just here to learn more from Jeannie. So, and also hear Pastor Greg's youth ministry experience.
Yeah.
And then also Pastor Mark Pettus from Church of the Highlands. And great to have you on the call, Mark. And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so honored to be here. I'm surrounded by legends on this hangout. So just truly honored and love Birmingham, Alabama, but it's not rated in the top 10 anything of vacation spots or anything else. But we love Birmingham, and mostly because of Church of the Highlands. I've been a part of the church since week number 5. So I was a college student. My then girlfriend, now wife, stumbled into the church just kind of looking for just a new church experience, and we fell in love with Highlands. And so been on staff for almost 9 years and in youth ministry. And just honored to be here, and can't wait for today. I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being a part. And without any further delay, I'll turn it over to Pastor Greg and just walk us through a discussion on what's happening in student ministry and what can we expect.
All right. Thanks, first of all of you for being a part. This is going to be this should be fun. I'm excited for it. You know, there are a lot of pastors who are listening. We have church planters. We have pastors that have been doing this for a lot of years. And a lot of pastors probably have at some point in their journey been involved in youth ministry. I know I started in youth ministry, and I was fired from my first 3 jobs in youth ministry.
Is that true? Greg, are you lying, or is that really true?
That is absolutely true.
That's hysterical.
The first one was my father, and
that
he was
didn't count then.
he was paying me $5 a week, and I was driving over from college 60 miles.
Yeah, that didn't count. Go to your next one.
Well, my next one, the whole church collapsed, and the district came in and fired me, and it wasn't my fault.
That didn't count either. Go ahead. I want one of them to be a real firing, Greg.
Well, the last one did count. I was a youth pastor for about a year and a half, and the pastor brought me in, and he said, you just are just really terrible at what you're doing. And in fact, he told me, and he's in heaven now, so I think I can say this, but and I thank God for him giving me the opportunity, because I was terrible. But he said, I think I would go back and work in the secular field if I was you. I just don't think ministry is in your future. And
Lord.
Yeah, it wasn't good. He was right about me being terrible, but God, how many are glad that past performance doesn't always dictate, future success? And so anyway. And the jury's out on my success anyway. So anyway, a lot of us have been in student ministries. Most people more successful than me in that. What has changed in the last few years about student ministry that pastors need to understand? How's it changed? What's different in the last few years? Jeannie, you want to attack that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll grab one thing, and then the guys can grab something else. I think, and this may sound too mushy to begin with, but I think senior pastors need to understand that there is never in the life of youth leaders, youth pastors, been such an internal desire to have a senior pastor who is somewhat, he may not call himself a spiritual father, but who communicates honest to God and interest in you as a person. And I know that sounds almost like a female answer on that, but guy after guy, I work with lots of guys. I mentor and coach lots of guys in this awesome thing I do called the cadre, and time again, the big deal is, when he interviewed me, he promised he was going to be my friend, my cheerleader, kind of come alongside of me. None of that's happened. The only time he talks to me is to chew me out and tell me what he does not like. And I just want to say to all the guys who are leading churches or being a boss of one of these amazing people now, they will go to the end of the world for you if they feel like in some way you honest to God personally care about them. So I know that's mundane, but because of the dysfunction of our society, that is way bigger than what it used to be 20 years ago.
Well, why do you say that it's bigger than it was 20 years ago? What is it about society that makes youth pastors looking for spiritual fathers maybe more than they were, my generation when I came up?
Greg, it's just the demographic of the society we live in. There are very few Leave It to Beaver homes now. Mm-hmm. And so society, has made many of us grow up feeling like, wow, what, and the wonderful home, the Father, the affirming, like when you read God the Father saying to Jesus, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. You got a beloved Son, so he gave him a sense of acceptance. This is my beloved Son, gave him affection, and in whom I'm well pleased, a sense of affirmation. So affection and acceptance, affirmation, that really is not real common from American fathers these days, if they're in the house or if they have time. And I'm not dogging on them. I'm just saying, in reality, it used to be that even non-Christian homes had much better family lives than really what we have as a common thing now. And that's really true in church families as well as non-church.
John or Mark, how do you react to that? Is that you see that as being a big deal?
Yeah, I definitely do. And we, working with our church, we're multi-campus, so we have multiple youth pastors and leaders in our church. And a lot of those we train up in our college. And so I've gotten to be up close and personal as those guys develop. And that is just on point for really what they're looking for. They're looking for training. They're looking to be equipped. They're looking for resources. But they definitely are. A lot of them are coming in with father wounds, or they're coming in without that spiritual covering. And that's really the first step to their security. It's the first step, I think, to their longevity in ministry is connecting on that level. So I definitely agree.
John, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, we've got more and more broken homes, broken families than we've had, years ago. And yes, broken homes were still years ago, but we're just seeing just a broken culture, a broken generation, just crying out for it. The pizza party used to draw hundreds, or tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds of kids, and now the pizza party isn't something that draws anybody anymore. It's relationship, and they're just craving a mentorship, a relationship, and so. I agree exactly with what the other said.
Well, then practically, and we'll come back in just a minute to maybe some other things that have changed in student ministry over the years. But so practically, what does that look like? How can a senior pastor, somebody higher up on the food chain, how can they affirm in practical ways, what's going on in the life of the student pastor? What can we do?
Who are you talking to?
Any of you, jump in. I'm talking to you.
Listen, it really doesn't take anything much. It takes a call or a text. I mean, this is not rocket science. They are not even demanding that we have an hour appointment each week. That would be lovely, but that's probably not going to happen with lots of folks. But even if there's an hour appointment, feeling like it's more than a job performance review, feeling like you care about what's going on in my life, and being the kind of rare person who looks for things to affirm. Psychologists tell us it takes 7 affirmations to even neutralize the power of one negative correction or whatever in all of our heads. Now, that doesn't mean don't admonish, but that does mean that gosh, the goodness of God leads all of us to repentance or change. So if a senior pastor wants to pull the best out of somebody, he or she's got to be very purposeful about making some contact regularly, not just in a big staff meeting, checking in, caring about their life, and finding some legit things to affirm and just saying, how did it go? And then really listening. I think many of us, not just senior pastors, have lost the skill of really listening to people.
John or Mark, specifically, anything that we can do, or what's been helpful to you?
I think that's all of that is incredible for the youth pastor, and I think that in that same way, as youth pastors, as we pastor students, keeping that in mind, that's what they're looking for too. And so we've really seen for us a move away from, we still do large gatherings, and we can attract students to present the gospel, but we've focused more than ever in the last few years on small groups and meaningful relationships. Students are well connected, but they don't have those meaningful relationships that are affirming and pulling out the best in them too. So I think it's what the youth pastors are needing and looking for. We're seeing also in youth culture, and so and it goes back to the family and the state of the health of the family.
John, anything to add to that?
Yeah, there's the old saying, the praise in public, rebuke in private statement, and I've worked in a few scenarios and situations where that was such a standard format of how the pastor would approach his staff, and I just always had one issue with that piece, which is I agree with the praise in public, rebuke in private, but also sometimes for senior pastors, praising in private is a good thing too. And so letting them know, so instead of always from the stage or always from a big group of people where it's kind of expected, it's that walk into the office and just kind of the encouragement piece and the, appreciate this, appreciate that.
Good stuff. So what else has changed? Mark, you kind of hit at it a little bit. you guys don't do like big event youth services every week. What's up with that? I mean, that's kind of what's expected, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the cool things, I think it's cool that's changed in church culture, and that is the church itself. Churches themselves have become really good at attracting not just adults but also young people, and I know there's different ways that looks, different styles and denominations, but there truly is here in Birmingham so many local churches that are reaching out, and that students are enjoying Sunday morning. They're connecting on Sunday morning, and what we've done is here at Highlands is we've felt that, and about 3 years ago really transitioned away from. We didn't see there was a need for a weekly service because our Sunday morning services were attracting students, were getting saved. That process was starting there, and so I think churches have gotten great at reaching people. I think churches learned a lot from youth ministries, and the energy and excitement around services has a lot of that same energy. And so we've moved more into a monthly. We do a once a month youth service so that we can move more into small groups and relationships, which I believe is the one piece. If you look at what students have available, they pretty much have everything except for meaningful relationships, authentic, true, God-focused relationships, and we're able to provide that in a context that is attractive for them. It's safe. It's a safe friendship, and so.
So you guys, and Chris Hodges, senior pastor, is cool with you just having one big event.
Because basically what I said is you're a better youth pastor for our entire church and for our students than I'll ever be. You have that platform. Students love when you speak to them. They respond to that, and we would rather focus our energy as a youth staff on connecting them. And we still do those. We do once a month. So we're still reaching students. We're still evangelistic.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see that tonight. We'll have our service tonight, and we'll see students get saved and set free, and then we just take them through the process from there of connecting them to our church, and they love our church. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not saying that's the change everywhere, but for us, it's been huge.
John, we do a similar thing. I think you're getting ready for a meeting tonight. How has that changed the dynamics of how you guys do student ministry?
Well, we were really interested in what Mark and Church of the Highlands were doing, and we studied a lot of that. And I think there's just a handful of other churches that were kind of really experimenting with that process, and it just really stood out to us because we really want to put all of our eggs in the relational basket, in the small groups basket. And so we launched our new format, which is we meet once a month, and then we do small groups on a very consistent weekly basis. And we had more students sign up to be a part of small groups than really ever attended our youth ministry before. And so it just really showed that there was this craving for relationship. And it helps us, instead of having to top 52 weeks and try to keep one-upping the next week, we get to do 12 months, 12 messages, 12 services really well. And it's all about next steps, moving into next steps, moving them from that one night, like Mark does, motion night. We do a one night, moving into small groups. And we've been able to see students give their life to Christ and instantly get connected with a small group leader and into a small group.
And the one night I know is growing. I mean, it's not like that's shrinking because of less emphasis. It seems to be growing. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, we've experienced some great growth in the past 6 months, and we've also, not just our one nights have been growing, but our small groups have been growing. And so, healthy things grow, and we feel like this is a great wave to ride. Will this last forever? Don't know, but right now it's one that we really feel like it's giving our leaders great margin to be able to really be empowered to serve in small groups and come to a once a month thing versus 2, 3, 4 things a week they've got to be a part of.
Jeannie, is that something you see as a trend, or what else is happening?
Let me say the obvious. If you got Greg Surratt or Chris Hodges being your senior pastor, and I'm not saying that to be nice, you got a good deal there. And I happen to have a great senior pastor. His name's Dennis Rouse. He's a great communicator.
Yeah,
the problem is that some guys are trying this when their senior pastor is a great guy, but never going to be a connect to today's youth culture. And so I'm going to quietly say to all the great senior pastors that are on here that are so excited about this, unless you really know you have a communication style that quickly connects to the teenagers and college kids in your room, please do yourself a favor and don't ask your youth pastor to do this, because you're adorable, senior pastor, but it's hard enough for the adults to stay interested in what you're saying. And I didn't just say that. It was Greg who said that, and I was just throwing it in. So that's the elephant in the room. Unless you're a riveting communicator that connects to youth culture, don't ask that of them. Having said that, the other switch is short attention spans. And we all know this. Obviously, social media has helped to create that. And I mean, the kids that I pastored 45 years ago actually read books. That's so staggering that anybody would think like that. They read, they actually, you know, your communication style, and I'm not saying you have to run romper room, but I am aware that when I talk tonight, I better be a pretty decent communicator. I can't go lazy on it tonight. I'm doing we're doing a thing that I'm calling Homeland Security tonight on trying to reach your family for Christ. I've got 2 skits in it. I use music background underneath one story, underneath an opening scripture. I have notes that I pass out. I have, you know, stuff on the screen, a video, because, and I'm not saying you have to do all that every time. I'm just saying attention spans are subliminal now. And that's just how they've been raised. So you can yell at them all you want about listen up, listen up. You heathen, it doesn't matter. Plus, the other obvious, they're biblically illiterate. And we all know this, but they know nothing. This stuff that we used to think everybody knew, practically nobody knows. So short attention span and biblically illiterate.
So what do we do about short attention span? Got it. You know, you just have to be a little bit more creative with how you share it. What do you do about biblical illiteracy with the kids? How are we addressing that?
Let somebody else talk, because I don't want to talk too much.
I was hoping to find the answer out on Ministry Hangout.
Were you? Okay.
What do we do to address it, Mark? What are you guys doing?
I think small groups give us the forum for that. And I think that's something we definitely see that. And it's not just with students, it's adults that are biblically illiterate too. So it's definitely something that I think throughout the church world we have to be aware of. And we've made the Bible easier to get through apps and through technology. But in some ways, I think we've walked away from its importance, and we looked at other books or authors about the Bible rather than the Bible. And so it's something within our culture that we talk about a lot. And I am here in Birmingham, which is the Bible Belt, but we still see just complete. It's just a blank slate. And so developing that, we really start with our junior high students. We're intentional with that. And our retreats, we do a few retreats every year. We've geared our retreats pretty much towards that end. We spend time talking about the Bible. We spend time talking about prayer. We spend time talking about fasting, about worship. And so we take moments throughout our calendar to infuse that culture, and then the small groups give us a forum really to walk that out through content. And awareness is the first step, though, just knowing that.
John, how about you?
Yeah, pretty much close to the same thing that Pastor Mark's doing. Small groups is key, and so we're really, providing reading plans and teaching them some of the biblical disciplines that we grew up knowing and kind of were emphasized a little bit more. But now you see this generation just kind of drifting away, and especially with technology, that's in our hands right here. I agree, Mark. We need to go. I think we need to get back to the written word a little bit more in this. Teaching them how to underline and outline and jot down some things, because God speaks to you, and you want to be able to kind of mark it out. And so, but through small groups is where we really try to teach that, because from the stage a lot of times it's listening isn't always learning, and so it's we want to be able to really get one-on-one with the students and in that mentoring environment. So,
when I was growing up, like decades ago, like shortly after Noah landed the ark, we used to get a lot of.
Greg, we're about the same age. You be real soft on how you talk about this.
Yeah, but you look so much better than I.
You're ridiculous.
I look like one of those horses that was rode hard and put away.
That is not accurate. Keep going. But I am encouraged that you got fired once for real. That makes me feel good. The other 2 times don't count.
They don't count?
No, sorry, pal.
It's a great story, though. You
It
know,
is a great story.
I'm gonna keep using them.
All right.
So we learned the basics in Sunday school, even if we didn't like it or act like we were involved. You know, I mean, we learned the basic stories of Christianity. And are we missing something now because we don't do that, or how do we replace that, or do we need to replace it? Jeannie, what do you think?
I don't know that we're ever going to go back to the handy-dandy Sunday school era, but you're right, it did give some structure to that. I think it boils down to saying, and I know we all know it, but I think in communication, I have to say to myself all the time, so what? You know, how are they really going to connect this scriptural principle to real life when they walk out of the door? I have not got, nor have my small group leaders, that many billions of hours with them in comparison to everybody else. So I have to be real intentional that I am taking the Word of God and talking about, I'm not just saying just be subject driven, but you know, when it says in John, the Word became flesh, and it says in the Message Bible, and moved into the neighborhood, I've got to make sure that the way I'm communicating the Word of God is something that matters in their life, and there are plenty of things that deeply matter, and so when it really matters, they listen much more aggressively, and I think so. It's the so what deal. You know, yeah. I listen to a lot of people speak, and I think, why would you waste 45 minutes talking about that? Because that's not a big deal. And they blame it on the Holy Spirit all the time. Say, God.
That's not that much different than what some of us old guys are doing, you know, on the weekend. You've got to answer the who cares question within the first 3 or 4 minutes, or nobody's going to listen. I guess probably with kids, it's you know, the ability to apply the word to where they're at, pop culture, whatever it happens to be, and answer the so what question. What do you ever get pushback from parents, you guys, that says, you know, we need more activities, we need more games and trips and some of that kind of thing? Do you ever get that, and how do you deal with it? John, how about you?
I just have them join our activities team.
Yeah, join the activities team. There you go.
You know what? Here, no, we haven't really had a lot of pushback of, hey, you know what? You need to do more go-kart trips, or you need to do more of, you know, this or that. When we went with this small group model, it's very relational. And discipleship is relational, it's educational, it's messy, and so when we've got these leaders and these adults investing in the lives of the students, they're going to be doing relational, fun things with them, as well as transferring life and, you know, follow me as I follow Christ. And so we necessarily haven't gotten a lot of pushback on, you need to do more fun things.
Did you get a lot of pushback when you said we're going to go with the small groups emphasis and not as many of the, you know, everybody together in one meeting?
No, because, and I think the rest of the panel can agree, 8 out of 10 conversations you have with parents isn't necessarily about a student who has gone off the deep end. It's about a student who, you know, the parents are coming to you saying, my child is just not connecting. Can you help them get connected into a healthy friendship circle? And so there wasn't a lot of pushback from parents by any means. Now, maybe some students are saying, but wait a minute, what's this going to look like? But I think we've been able to kind of turn that tide.
That's interesting. So the parent, I can relate to that. I mean, we had 4 kids that we still do, and I can remember just hoping that there would be adults that would take an interest in their life. You know, I mean, it was good if we had good meetings, but I really wanted somebody to love them, care for them, you know, outside of our home. So I guess that's where that is. Mark, what about you? Any pushback on, hey, we need more, you know, games or, you know, trips or whatever, or is that something of the past?
Yeah, for us it wasn't. There was no pushback either. There was some. We did parent meetings when we were kind of shifting things, and so we painted a picture of it. I think there was people who didn't have vision of what it would look like necessarily. And until we got into it, they had some questions. But same thing here. And I'm a new parent, And already, my first just started kindergarten, and when the teacher comes up and talks about my son and how she's taking a special interest in him, that's what I'm looking for. And I think every parent seems to be the same. And parents have so much on their plate. There's so much stress in our world today. When you're looking at them and saying, we want to make this more relational, we want your student to have someone that can mentor them spiritually. Parents need help, and so they really receive that. And especially in our context, and I do agree with Jeannie, it's different here at Highlands. But when you're talking about a student being one in a room of, a big room maybe of 1,000 versus one in a group of 10, parents get that. They see that that's a higher touch environment, and they're looking for that, and so they appreciate it.
Jeannie, I want to go off the page here just a little bit. So I'm listening, and I'm excited. I mean, Mark is the student ministry guy in one of the 2 or 3 largest churches in America. John is in the best church in America.
That was good. That was good, Greg.
Yeah. How's that?
That was great.
Another very, very large church. Jeannie, you're in a large church. I'm a pastor, and it's a smaller church. We've got, maybe 100 people, maybe 200 people. And how do we do student ministry in a situation that's not as, let's say, resource rich as some of the people that are on the panel? What would you say to a pastor like that?
I think, number one, I came originally as a young girl, not from a Christian home. I gave my life to the Lord in that kind of church. And it was always volunteer youth leaders, always. Dick and Barb Williams, they're in their 70s now. They were my youth leaders. And again, I would say over and over to senior pastors, just choose some of your best volunteers who have a personality, and you can tell this pretty easily, that kids would in some way be drawn to. I mean, it can't just be the most serious but spiritually deep person you meet there, or somebody that's about as exciting as watching paint dry. I mean, it needs to be somebody who has some life about them. And then I would be real intentional on recruiting that individual or individuals, a couple of them, and maybe some key volunteers around them. I mean, our son Josh has just planted a church, and again, it's a deal of saying, okay, who's really good? We're not going to be able to hire this for a while, and putting some premier people who have some gift sets there. And then, as the senior pastor, remember that whatever you respect is drawn to you. So if you're making the tiny one-liners from the platform about how amazing the youth group is, and then connecting with some of those kids before and after church, boy, it gives the advantage to the small church, not the disadvantage. So again, I want to stress, I was the kid in a church that wasn't saved, that came from one of those tiny churches, had volunteer leaders my whole life, and they just made me feel like they gave a rip about me. And matter of fact, we didn't even have good youth groups. We just had Sunday school. I mean, how depressing. But, I'm here because those 2 Sunday school teachers, Dick and Barb, cared about me, and they're still friends yet today.
Yeah, I have a similar story. I was saved, came to Christ in a church, small church, always in small churches growing up, and it seemed like in those churches you would have volunteers who would be the youth sponsors. They'd always be there at the and if the youth sponsors cared and were sharp and good and loved kids, then we hung in there, and that's good. Hey, I've got a question that just came in. Again, Jeannie, this would be for you. How do you distinguish yourself as a woman in youth ministry when men are usually the ones leading? I mean, it is you're like, when I mentioned who we wanted to have on the show, you're like a guru. You're the one that probably both Mark and John have learned so much from, and yet it's unusual because most youth pastors are guys.
Mm.
How do you put that together to talk to that question?
Well, number one, I think the personality of the girl has a lot to do with how well it's going to go. If a girl has an invisible chip on her shoulders, like I'm going to prove to all these rotten men that I'm better than they are, it's not going to go. I have just realized my whole run that a woman has some gifts, and if God has called me to this, I need to play to the gifts that are inside of me. And for me, and not all women, but several women, it is that intuitive sense of family, easily showing that I care, not being mushy all the time, but just, creating that family thing, creative thing, all that sort of stuff. And then as a woman, respecting men enough to know I need strong men around me. Lots of women come across so forceful that strong men are repulsed by them. And I think that's suicide for any gal in any level of ministry. I have humbled myself. I have always had strong men around me that often began with my leading them to the Lord as they were teenagers. Not always, but often. And so I have gone to guys and said, gosh, I can't do this youth ministry thing with it being a ladies' night out. You're a strong guy. You're going to be able to reach guys in a way I can't. Wouldn't you be healthy if I tried? Would you be so kind as to give youth ministry a try as a leader for 3 months? If you don't like it, no guilt, you can back out then. But again, if a girl just, it doesn't mean she just walks around going, but if she just stays a lady and doesn't get all bent out of shape whenever a guy's not falling at her toenails, and she realizes that, I think to a man is often given the greater spiritual authority, but to a woman, the greater ability to influence. You see that all the way through the scripture. Doesn't mean a man doesn't have ability to influence. Doesn't mean a woman doesn't have spiritual authority. But I think we've wired it that way. So I would just say to girls that are wanting to be used of God in any level, just stay a lady. And Proverbs says your gift will make room for you. I probably never made the salary that a guy would have made in my doing some of the things that I did. But you know what? If you're going to get all bent out of shape on that, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. I've just thought, hey, the Lord's going to give me a couple of extra stars when I get to heaven. Maybe. I don't know if he is or not. I hope so. That
was a politically incorrect assessment. I love that. I think from a student ministry, worker, pastor, employee, volunteer, or whatever, I think that is an attitude that would be helpful for everybody to say, you know what, I'm in this, I do it for free. Thank God, God will give me the stars in heaven. When you get an agenda, whatever that is, I know I was talking about it yesterday in my office with somebody. When somebody gets an agenda, chip on their shoulder about whatever the subject is, I shut down in a hurry. It just, it's like, okay, So I agree with that. On the other side, from a senior pastor or somebody who's, responsible for pay and all of that, I think we need to look at, why would we pay a male more than a female who's doing just as good a job? I think that's something that we've got to look at from our point of view, and that's a whole nother podcast. Why don't we just let's leave that one alone? I'll just leave it right there. I wanted to pick up on something Jeannie said. You guys, she was talking about. Did you notice she was talking about recruiting? Because recruiting is huge. How do you get volunteers? How do you get people to help? And I know, John, since you've been with us at Seacoast, that seems to be one of your sweet spots. I mean, you do a lot of things well, but it seems like, wow, the volunteer base goes up a ton. What's the secret? How do you recruit people to be involved in student ministry?
Well, Jeannie wrote a book called Thriving Youth. No, it's, I think your heart shows. You cast a compelling vision. It's shoulder tapping. It's them seeing some wins that you can have behind your belt a little bit, and then they see that there's some small successes. You don't need lots of large successes. You just need some small wins that they see. They're noticeable, and then you just you just share the need that you've got. And sometimes you have students walk up to a leader and say, what, I need a small group leader, and we've been watching you, and we'd love for you to invest into our life. Or you just get creative with ways to kind of speak to the hearts of people that want to be involved. They just don't know how to kind of take that next step. And so we've just gotten creative in asking people. And sometimes from the stage, we've asked for stage time, platform time to talk about that. But sometimes you get those EGR people that
I want to be in ministry. Yeah.
So just lots of different creative ways that you try to recruit, and one-on-ones is always the best way.
Mark, how about you? How do you guys recruit?
Yeah, I think that's the one-on-one is the key for us as a staff, and then for our key leaders. It's just that culture of that we can delegate some things, but you can never delegate building the team. And we see it as why would anyone say no to being a part of what's happening here? It's so incredible, and so let's have that spirit. And then we take every Sunday morning, every opportunity in our own lives just to build relationships and to build a team. And so we believe in people, we pastor people, and there's such buy-in on both sides of that. And I think what's cool for us is our leaders then have that same spirit, and they're recruiting other leaders. Their friends are a part of. If they lead a successful small group, they want their friends to be a part of that. And so there's just a culture that we do this together. And then we're really always really intentional about honoring them and giving the pat on the back and the affirmation. And in our model, truly they are doing the youth ministry. So our small group leaders are youth pastors. They're pastoring students. And so we do our best to take care of them.
How do you honor your volunteers?
We do 4 times a year. We do an event we call it Team Night. And so we basically throw a big party for them. And so we bring all of our students who are serving in the church. We call that our dream team, so our students that are part of that, along with our adults that are serving. And we give out awards. We give out gifts. We basically just take a night and we just honor them. And then we give vision as well. So we kind of give a marching order. Here's what's coming up. Here's what it's going to look like. And so it's kind of a half party celebration, half vision.
Is that just for student ministries, or is that all volunteers in the church?
That's just for student ministry.
Okay.
We've taken that and done it each quarter, and it's a huge win for us.
Do you guys? What I noticed in what Jeannie said, and maybe it was just a pattern of speech, but she said, "Hey, can you do this for 90 days? It's not the rest of your life." You guys use that kind of a pitch? Is that a?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Same here by semester. We do basically the same thing every 3 months. We kind of reboot and look at each semester of the year that way.
That kind of gives everybody an out. Plus, it gives people a taste of, oh wow, this could be cool. I could do this for a long time. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, you hear terms like family ministry and next generation ministry a lot these days. Are these like new terms for the same thing, or is there substance in semantics? What you see any trends there? Jeannie, let me ask you that. What do you think?
Again, they're awesome trends that we hear often, and the overall feel is saying, hey, we want to connect the generations, so that's awesome. And we want to make sure that a kid doesn't drop between middle school and high school, or high school and college, or college and young single, or young single and young married. So the concept is awesome. Again, I think it is much more workable on a larger team that has the budget to hire that. What I'm seeing in several places is well-meaning senior pastors are hiring that instead of somebody who really can own their children's ministry and then really own their youth ministry. And so that person, again, I think it's awesome if you got the budget to have all of it. But my concern is that sometimes I'm watching in several situations where now we no longer have a thriving children's ministry or youth ministry because we want one poor person to be in charge of all of it without anybody underneath him that's even paid part-time. And so the extra hours are not there to invest. And so though we have this great guy or woman at the top, it's really, when you get down to the bottom line, in most churches, again, not churches the size I'm at, the size these two wonderful guys are at, I'm not talking about that, but probably most of the people on this call, their church is not many thousand. And so I would say, hey, before you hire that next role, which is awesome, which a senior pastor can almost oversee, that we're connecting generations in a smaller church, make sure that you've got boots on the ground to own your children's ministry, and then next, boots on the ground, not necessarily in this order, to own your student ministry. Then if you got money left over, then you can flip a coin depending on the size and your demographic, if that would be the next hire. But I think a good senior pastor in a smaller church can do that just as well as somebody paid full time to do it. When they get bigger, like these churches, that's cool. That's a really essential role. So I'm not saying that it's not an essential role. I'm just worried that I see some churches wanting to be trendy and cool, so they're hiring that instead of boots on the ground. And I'm afraid that's cart before the horse.
Yeah, that's good wisdom. Great wisdom. I like that. Guys, what are you doing in your churches to make sure that we're connecting, the age groups? We don't have where are the drop-offs? You've got from elementary school to middle school, whatever that number is. Then obviously you got the big one from high school, college ministry. A lot of high school kids, at least I think statistics say, we lose a lot of high school kids when they go to college or in the college ministry. What do you guys do to connect that? Mark, what do you guys do in your ministry? Are you intentional about that? Think about that? Or maybe that's a challenge?
Yeah, we've gone through different phases, and there was a season where I operated, as Jenny was talking about, as that kind of that next generation. I was overseeing kids and student ministry, and really in the last 6 months have jumped full force back in student ministry, and we really came up to a lot of those same hurdles. For us, Pastor Chris, he has a lot of vision, overreaching vision, for those areas, and it's been great for our kids pastor and for myself to focus in our areas, and then we work really well together. So what's cool is as they're coming out of 5th grade for us, which is the end of our kids ministry, into 6th grade, we've developed mailers that go to our parents and let them have a picture of what's coming. We do meetings with those students. And then we do a few strategic events. For us, we have a conference in the summer and then a retreat in the fall that really help those students connect. And then as they move into college, we have church campuses in Auburn and Alabama, or in Auburn and Tuscaloosa, which is strategic because that's where most of our students go to college. And
people at Auburn and Alabama, they need Jesus really bad.
Especially in Tuscaloosa, they need Jesus really bad.
Yeah. Hey, let me pick up on one thing you said there. You said that you formerly, if I heard it right, had a position kind of over both of those, and now you're specializing more. What led to that? I mean, that sounds like, whoa, that's backwards. Was it? And what led to that?
Yeah, I think we really didn't see the need. I think for Beth is her name, our kids pastor. She's incredible, and we. In my leadership and in our relationship, before I was leading that area and then now afterwards, we had such a great relationship in what we were doing. And our, we run church pretty simply here, so the directives that were coming down were not, there really wasn't the need for it, just honestly, that's the best way to say it. And then for myself personally, jumping into the Highlands College world, which is something we do here, time-wise, it was definitely good for me to step out of that role specifically. So, we have an incredible all-star kids minister, and then I have a great youth team, and we're working together and we're connected relationally. So we didn't need the kind of the pyramid above that. And Pastor Chris is speaking vision into both of those areas.
Okay. So, John, how do you guys handle the transitions?
I've heard your senior pastor is kind of questionable, John. on being able to connect. So just know we certainly won't drop his name, but I'm praying with you, buddy, that your senior pastor will get a clue. Because I heard he was fired 3 times.
Isn't she right? Isn't
Yeah,
she
okay.
right?
Okay.
One time.
Okay, thanks.
We have our senior pastor come and teach the kids environment and the youth environment to make sure the transition goes well.
Yeah, that's...
No, we do a lot like what Mark and Highlands does. We have some strategic events that right now with some of the changes that we've made and me just being here a year, I think having a great relationship with other staff members of the kids department is crucial. If you're at a church with, whether you're the only youth pastor or you've got youth staff and they've got a kids person, I think having a relationship with that person is just key, and being able to help those transitions. And so, so a few strategic events, and then we're toying with some ideas right now, which is completely fresh, of when we recruit our small group leaders, we're recruiting them to go help for the 4 or 5 months in the 5th grade environment, so they're already getting to know those students who are moving up into the middle school years, instead of just coming into the 6th grade and then all of a sudden just being thrown into a relationship that they don't know, they don't have. So really taking a few months to kind of establish this relationship to move in. And then we also, at our church, we have a college ministry, and so just having a relationship with that person, and then moving those students into, because there's a college in our community here that a lot of students go to, and so just making sure that there's easy, successful handoffs. Does it look pretty? It looks better on paper than it does live a lot of times, but we're always trying to tweak and make it better.
And I think that's one of the things, as I listen a little bit, is it's always tweaking, always tweaking, always tweaking. I think, John, now I should be more in tune than this, but I think we've backed off a little bit of the family ministry concept because we saw ours tilting one direction or another. Whoever was kind of the head of it and what their vision was had more emphasis on children's or more emphasis on students, and we decided let's build two, not silos necessarily, but they've got to be strong leadership in both of them. And
it's okay if you have silos if it's on the same farm, So as long as they're feeding.
That's a great line.
That really is.
That's a great line. I've never heard that.
Somebody tweet that.
Somebody tweet that.
It's
That's
okay
right.
to have silos so long as they're on the same farm, and just put at Greg Surratt said that. Okay.
That's awesome.
That really is good. I like that.
John, you're famous.
Oh, it's because of his mentor. All right, so Jeannie, tell me a little bit about what you do with that. Like, you've got a cadre you mentioned. What's that? What's up with that? I know John's a part of it. What do you do?
Oh, I've got. If you saw this little bracelet that I've got on, you can't really see it on the camera. It says 100X, taken from the Gospels that we're all familiar with, where Jesus said he planted some seed and it was 10-fold, 50-fold production, 100-fold, 100X. And so, about 12 years ago, I started to say I'm going to get way more intentional. I'm going to always do local church youth ministry, but I'm going to get more intentional on multiplying myself into one seed, maybe not 100-fold, but more fold. And so for me, it's just been a focus on giving away, Greg, what I would have given anything to have had in ministry myself. I just yearned to have somebody who did youth ministry for longer than a couple of years, who could understand some of the challenges, who could coach me on what I wanted to be coached on, and then also plow on some of the things that their experience taught them I needed to hear, and also create a safe environment with other youth pastors with similar size ministries that were not necessarily in the same city, that I could beat some ideas off of, be vulnerable with. And so that's where the cadre came. We do 2-hour conference calls every month, but then the fun part is they come to my house. They stay in some of our Atlanta Leadership College apartments during the night, but they're at my house a couple of times a year for 2 days each. They choose the coaching blocks, then I control the evenings on where I want to go. And then I have a third time where their wives, or if they're a female youth pastor, they come in. So for me, it's just been a fun run. I lose money on it, so lest everybody get excited about a new way to make income, I lose about $30,000 a year on it. But it is really the most fulfilling 100x thing I do, because I just want to make a difference in some youth leader, youth pastor's lives.
John, you're a part of that. How important is that to you?
You know, when stepping back into student ministry, I wanted to immerse myself completely, fully into youth culture again, and I felt that this was probably one of the best avenues to be around like-minded warriors who are in the trenches. Jeanne has always been a mentor of mine, especially from a distance, and it's fun to be face-to-face now, but it's just wanted to, I think if of anything, there's great conferences, but it's also fun to be a part of some practical nuts and bolts mentoring time where there's iron sharpens iron moments where you're around like-minded leaders who are asking like-minded questions and you're hearing answers, not necessarily always from Jeanne, but from some other youth guys who may have been a year in the trench and others who have been, quite a few years in the trench, but it's very beneficial.
Great. Guys, I have so many more questions than what we've gone through. We ought to do this again sometime, but we're at the end of our hour. So what I like to do at the end is just one last thing. What are you reading? What are you listening to? What have you written? What conference are you going to that everybody just needs to know about? And this is a wonderful time for shameless self-promotion. Okay, that's part of why it's here. But anything you're talking to, student ministry people, volunteers, or full-time staff, is there anything that everybody, or that's really burning in you? Mark, I'll start with you. Is there anything we ought to be going to, seeing, listening, reading? What are you reading?
Well, I'm reading a lot of books right now, nothing specifically on youth ministry. Leadership-wise, the Emotional Intelligence, the second book just came out. Just grabbed that this weekend. I was on a trip with Pastor Dino.
Is it good? Is it good?
I just grabbed it. And
okay, so you don't know quite yet. Okay.
On Mondays. I think it's such an interesting concept. I think it's just a fresh look at people, and I think it applies so much to ministry. Something I'm doing personally, this is something from Pastor Chris that he has led well in, is kind of moved away from going to conferences and really have started studying different churches and building a relationship, trying to with 2 or 3 churches at a time, get to know the youth pastor, to go study that church and to immerse myself in that culture, and I'm learning so much in that. And so right now for me, that's Brad Cooper up at New Spring, and we're actually having him in to speak tonight, and we built a friendship over the last year, and they're doing some incredible things. I've been with the North Point and Passion guys, just that kind of Atlanta crew, and then with Hillsong from a distance, just finding these great churches that have great culture, each have unique strengths, and immersing myself in those, and it's been great, rather than just going to be a part of a conference somewhere.
Cool. Excellent. John, how about you?
Mark, I'm going to reach out to you, man. I want to learn from you. There's an app that if there's any youth pastors watching, there's an app called Remind that is just it's a free texting app, and it's just I know a lot of guys are paying $80 a month to text their students, text their parents, text their leaders. It's a phenomenal app. You can download that for free, and it's free. It's great. The book currently we're reading right now, and it's kind of as our small group team. We've kind of broken our staff into many departments in our youth department now, and it's creating a lead small culture, and another book called Lead Small, just really emphasizing and re-emphasizing the importance of small groups. And just last piece of advice or whatever is value your volunteers, because they are the lifeblood of your student ministry, and so yeah, you can never appreciate them enough, and so do what you can to appreciate them.
Cool. Jeanne, how about you?
Well, I'm awkward to say it since Mark helped us all know conferences aren't worthwhile now, but you're such a smile over that, Mark. When you're Mark or John or even me, you can get some of those amazing folks to hang out with you. But again, I think I have such a heart for some fine folks. And some of the little churches, certainly the youth leaders would have much to give you as well. But I'm once every 3 years, I underwrite $100,000 for my nonprofit. I mean, I put money on the line for it to do a National Youth Leaders Conference.
Cool.
And I've done 10 of them. Who knows when the last one will be? This one will be in Dallas at the Church Bentry, where Catalyst is held there. Opening Monday night, March 23rd through the 25th. We're able, because we underwrite it, I really pray it is more than, and we're told it is, more than a typical conference feel. Craig Rochelle and some amazing folks are going to be with us. And then I anchor the night just because I stay nervous in a good way about wanting, and this sounds maybe too cheesy, but wanting to really say something that's not just a slam dunk message, but something that will really matter in youth leaders and youth pastors' lives. And I know that sounds so mundane, but so hey, you go to NYLC 15 National Youth Leaders Conference 15.org, and any of you that'd love to show up, we pay about 50% so that we can keep the price reasonable. I think it'll be awesome.
NYLC15.com. And what we're going to do is we're going to take up an offering to get Mark Pettus there.
Oh, Mark, you're good.
Yeah.
Yay, Rob.
Good. They still do conferences.
And if I were at Church of the Highlands, I probably would space conferences too, but I'm not cool enough.
I think they go to a few of them. Hey, one last question. This is a yes or no. Are you going to be sporting the Apple Watch when it comes out? Mark, yes or no?
Yes.
John?
If I can, possibly, yes.
Okay. Jeannie?
Don't know the price yet. I just asked yesterday, and my team didn't know.
$329.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No. He says no. It's supposed to be pretty amazing. I've got an anniversary coming up, and so I think it's much safer as a woman to tell your husband what you want rather than leave him to his own devices.
You're never disappointed by gifts that you buy yourself. That's what I like to say, yeah. Sean, hey, guys, this has been great. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. Appreciate the audience, too. And if it's been helpful to you, Sean will explain to us how you can watch it again and maybe get it to somebody that you know that could benefit.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again for being on the Ministry Hangout this month. It's been a great call. Pass the word on to others because they can get this through the archive at ministryhangouts.com, or you can visit gregsurratt.org. Either one of those will get you to it, as well as if you go to Apple, speaking of Apple, iTunes. We have an iTunes podcast. This one will be updated in just a few days, and you can go back and get all of the archives of Ministry Hangouts. Just time where Pastor Greg has been on a hangout with his friends to be able to learn about ministry, and it's been some great stuff that you could share with your staff. And to let you know what's coming up, in October we're going to be looking at the topic of our mistakes and what we learned from them. And so we're going to have some ARC pastors on, as well as Pastor Greg, just to share of what are some mistakes that we've made and what did we learn along the way because of those mistakes. And then in November, we're having an honest conversation about the church and homosexuality. And so that's one that maybe you'll want to spread the word about and just learn what some pastors are learning and in a new culture and where we're at and how do we do our best to pastor and to be able to be the church within this context. So thank you guys again. Thank you to our panel for being here and spread the word about this one. And this was just a great, great call. We'll see you guys next month.